Hello and welcome back to the American Ultra Stock channel. Thank you so much for being here and Happy New Year to all of you guys. I believe this is our first update in the new year, 2025. So we're starting this off with, well, it only fits this time of the year when we see a lot of transfer rumors. It is the January window. A bit of a hit or miss one, but today we're bringing to you guys a video about players who should they get a move. These are guys that I always lurk around now for the past couple of months for some of them with some rumors, some potential upsides in their career if they do leave or not. So we've started here with the order of prominence. So obviously we'll start with the big names first. And what a better name to start off with than Jedi. I mean, Jedi has been killing it at Fulham this season. I think he is the best left back in the Premier League. I think that's fair to say. And he's been linked to Liverpool, even Man United, Milan. We saw that he liked a couple of the comments that linked him to Liverpool from fans. Braden, what do you think? Do you think he should leave? Do you think he will leave? Ultimately, take it away.
Well, before we get into that, I just want to preface that any MLS players will not be covered in this video because we already had a video about them a week or two ago, and we will have more broad transfer update videos a couple times throughout the window to give updates on the moves that have happened, new rumors, covering everybody. But for now, this is just European-based players who have been in the rumors lately. And for Antonee Robinson, I think you're spot on. I think he has been the best left back in the Premier League this season. Granted, it is probably one of the weakest positions in terms of quality in the league, but it's still the best league in the world, and I think he's up there with the best. You have arguments for Cucurella, Vardiol, Kirkez has been good as well, but I think Jedi's consistency speaks for itself, really. And I think it's tough because on the one hand, from Fulham's perspective at least, his value is not ever going to be higher than it is now, especially with how old he is, getting into his prime. And I mean, a couple years in the future, he's going to be in his 30s, and that is usually when players typically hit the end of their prime, start to decline a little bit. So if they do want to cash in on him, it is going to probably be either now or in the summer. On the other hand, Fulham are having an incredible season. It's not just Jedi. The team as a whole has been playing very, very well. They're pushing for European spots. If they keep it up, I think it's very realistic that they could sneak into Conference League, Europa League. Really just depends how the league shakes out, but they're in and amongst it this season. There's been so much parity in the Premier League with teams like them, Bournemouth, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, all of these lower level clubs competing with the big boys. And yeah, honestly, I just think maybe it'll be seen as boring for some fans. I think a lot of people want to see him step up to Europe's elite and challenge himself there, and I understand the argument for that, but I just think he has a perfect thing going for him right now at Fulham, at least for now. Finish the season, see if he can help them get back to the glory days back in Europe where Clint Dempsey had them several years ago. I just think it makes the most sense to stay because who knows what happens. I do think that the Liverpool one is intriguing because he could go there, probably win a Premier League title. It'd be very cool to see an American be integral to that because, I mean, Liverpool have left back issues themselves. Robertson is on a steady decline. Tsimikas really is not that great. So I think that is their position of need. If they were to target anyone, it probably would be Jedi or Kirkez, like I mentioned earlier. So I think that one's the most intriguing one. As for the other rumors, I don't want to see anyone go to Man United. No offense to any fans of that club, but they're an absolute mess right now. And Milan, it was a shame that his move there several years ago broke down because of the heart condition, which thankfully has not resurfaced since then. But I mean, they have Teo Hernandez. Maybe he'll leave, but I think he's pretty secure at the left back spot there. So I think Liverpool's probably the only one. I'm very curious to see if you think he needs a move.
Yeah, I will say if it is to Liverpool, move. I'm very pragmatic when it comes to these transfers. I think a lot of the times we rush into saying that players need to move, but I honestly think that Jedi himself, I mean, even liking the things, and a while back when he was voted into the team of the season by some people, he would repost it on his story with the little clown holding the gun as if he doesn't belong amongst the other soldiers. And I mean, it's nice banter and all, but at the same time, I feel like those are little hints that he probably feels like he will regret not playing for a giant of a club when it's all said and done if he has the opportunity to do so. And why I say Liverpool, it's a good one, because I think he would honestly earn the starting spot by the end of the season. He would be able to add a Premier League to his career. And again, you never know with Liverpool. They have a really good squad. But what happens next year in the Champions League, he might have a chance to play well and regularly European football for years to come. So if that's the case, I would say yes. If not, I mean, United, Milan, is that even really an upgrade from Fulham? All things considered with the environment and the cult hero status that he's bringing up getting up there? Yeah, I don't think so. So only if it's Liverpool. But I'm curious to see your guys' opinion on the comments below. And I'm sure you will comment as well about the next player. He's the one that's always around this. I mean, we had a whole video dedicated for him, the quarterly review. It always seems to happen. Gio Reyna. I mean, there are some links right here that he could be going to Milan. I haven't seen anything too reliable in terms of sources, but it is the only club lurking around there that could sign him. As we said, he has a bit of an issue with a really high salary. Do you think he's going to move, Braden? Do you think he's going to stay put? Because that little high that he rode, it's already back down to earth and no minutes.
Yeah, despite the fact that his minutes seem to be coming few and far between for Dortmund, at least when everyone is healthy. We know he had that 2-game stretch where he got 2 starts, scored a nice goal. That was great, but Julian Brandt's back from injury. Now he's probably going to be a bench player, not get a lot of minutes. But honestly, I think that's okay, because if he does play consistently, who's to say he's not just going to get injured again? I think he has to kind of work his way back, of course, coming back from the injury that he had earlier this season. And we saw how bad the move was earlier in the window or not earlier in the window, but last January to Nottingham Forest, a loan move, and it was just horrible. And the only reason it happened was because of Jorge Mendes, of course. And I fear that the Milan one is the exact same thing. Last time he had a connection to Nuno, who was manager at Forest, and we all know they didn't actually need him despite the loan fee that they paid. He barely played there. At Milan, I'm going to be honest, the only reason that the rumors are happening is because their new manager, Conceição, he has connections as well to Jorge Mendes. And let's be real, if you're not a big name player, a superstar of the game, Jorge Mendes, he's one of the best agents, one of the most illustrious in the game. He keeps winning the same award that he made for himself every year, so he must be good. He's not going to care about you if you're a player like Gio Reyna. It's just a sad reality. I think he made a severe lapse in judgment when appointing him as agent last year, and I just fear if he went to Milan, it'd be a same situation where he gets a client a move just because of the connections he has with no plans to actually play him. I don't think he would go well at Milan. I'm kind of scared, honestly, to see how it goes with Conceição as their manager in general, especially for what it means for our players there, especially Musa. He was one of the only players to actually thank Fonseca. So I think it's kind of indicative of maybe how his playing time is going to be. I just think Reyna should stay put because there's going to be so many options in the summer, or at least so many more options that are probably better for him than in Milan, where he can actually look out and see what's best for him in terms of just jumping on the next plane and just getting out of Dortmund, because I think that's a little reactionary.
Yeah, I will say, I think with Conceição, it's going to be a disaster again. Sorry if this is really pessimistic, but I don't think it would work out for Gio either way. I mean, reports are out that Conceição is going to try to have a really physical role that would be pivotal to their style with Loftus-Cheek. We know that's not Gio. I don't think that Gio fits in there. Quite frankly, I don't know where Gio fits. So let us know. I mean, your guess is as good as mine on to where Gio should go. I don't think it'll happen. I don't think it should happen either. Let's wait until the summer, see what happens. More options will be around. So that's my take on him. Moving on right here to a player that, and we said this would be in order of prominence. He's not as well known, but I think he might be more important than the other players that are remaining after him. On the list, we have Santiago Castañeda. Really, really promising player, as we all know. And he's playing at the second Bundesliga, could get promoted. And he's been linked to a variety of clubs right here. Werder Bremen, Heidenheim, Mönchengladbach, Union Berlin, Freiburg. I mean, it suits the modern player style where you have a deep-lying playmaker, even that's a defensive midfielder as well. Tall, young, 21 years old. Braden, do you think he should move, or should he just stay steady, maybe do the Maloney route where he earns promotion with the club?
Yeah, being only 20 years old, it's been crazy to see the rise he had. Of course, playing in the third division last year, even getting relegated with Duisburg, earns the move to Paderborn. He's started, I believe, every single game for them. He's pivotal to their side. They were top of the Zweite Bundesliga, the second division. They're now down in sixth, but still only 3 points off of first. I mean, that division, if you look at the table, it's absolutely insane. Basically, everybody's still in with a chance to get promoted. It's honestly crazy how much parity that league has. Definitely slept on in terms of especially the size of the clubs as well. But anyway, I think that he should probably just take a chill pill for a little bit. It's great to see all these rumors because he is a player with high potential that keeps rising through the ranks very quickly. But I think to jump from a team that got relegated from the third division, he could have been playing regional league of football with the likes of 16-year-old Alexander Staff, one of our prospects, in the same league as him, and now he could be in the Bundesliga within like a year and a half. I think it's a crazy rise, and I don't know if that's necessarily so good for a player to jump that quickly. Not saying that he wouldn't be good enough for it, because I think given maybe even just another half season with Paderborn, he could. But I just think it's a little too quick to make a move of that standard. Even though the clubs, most of them are towards the bottom of the Bundesliga, I think it's better to stick it out with Paderborn, help them try to get promoted, because they have as good of a chance as anybody. And if he really did get that achieved, it would be something special for the club. So I think he should stay put, but he's definitely one to watch for the future, because yeah, he plays in a position that we're stacked in, but he's a great talent. And I mean, we see how many injuries we get, so there's always need for more depth.
Absolutely. He's trying to become what James Sands is right now, a Bundesliga player. We were doing a transfer video, so props to James Sands for the ambition and trying to further his career in Europe. I'll give him that, and I think that's really commendable. But moving on right here to another, on my take on Castañeda, stay as well. I think it's way too early, and it's good to build your career without too much pressure. I think that he's at a perfect environment for that, and I'm sure we'll see him in the Bundesliga in the future. Let's just be patient. And I skipped Pepi. My apologies. He is more important. Obviously, he's the one banging the goals. There's a big argument right there. He should be the starting 9 for the USMNT. But will he be the starting 9 for his club? Because now he's being rumored right here. And I'll be honest, I'm a little skeptical of this rumor. I mean, nothing exact, really, not too much into it. Sometimes agents feed into stories. We see that in the past. His agent wasn't the most clever last year when they tried to criticize the club. So do you think this rumor is true, that an unnamed Ligue 1 club could be in for him? And do you think he should move? Or should he just stay at PSV, where whether things aren't really working for him in terms of playing regularly, he does get in the goals and he fell into the graces of the fan base?
Yeah, Pepe's an interesting one, because he's already, I think it's safe to say, whether you believe the rumor that came out a few weeks ago, I think it was, that an unnamed Premier League club had, a 20 million bid for him, rejected by PSV. That club came out to be Liverpool. They had already been linked to him in the past. Now there's this Ligue 1 one that I think, regardless of what you believe, it's very clear that a market is developing for Ricardo Pepi. He's being monitored by so many clubs from so many different countries, and I think sooner or later it will be time for him to move on. It's just so interesting because he doesn't actually start for PSV. Of course, Peter Bosz, with this insane addiction to Luke de Jong, I don't know what it is. I think it's clear now that Pepi's outperforming him, at least this season, and will do for probably the remainder of his career. But I honestly am stuck. I could go either way with this one, because I think in the summer there's going to be a lot more interest. There's going to be a lot more concrete bids. I think it could do well for Pepi to stay at PSV and truly battle it out for the starting spot, whether he's playing with a fair hand or not, in terms of what the manager thinks. I think sometimes the decisions that are made aren't necessarily best for the club, but still fighting it out for a Champions League spot. They have 2 games left, have a very decent chance of qualifying for the next round. I think playing in these bigger games could help them, could help Ricardo Pepi. And if he does get a move to a team in the Premier League, to a Ligue 1 club, who, by the way, I'm just going to throw my hat in the ring, I think it is Lille, because the rumors are that Jonathan David, of course, the US-born striker, plays for Canada, might finally be leaving the club after 20,000 Fabrizio Romano notifications every window. It looks like he finally could be out. I think that they're prepping for a future without him, and Pepi is the target. I think that's a perfect move to happen in the summer. I think another half season with PSV, where hopefully he can finally establish himself as the full-time starter in the big games, would do him so much good. And then from then on, I think he might be ready for a step up.
I think that personally, Pepi should just stay around for now, because I think he may not be the outright starter, and that's not really fair, but just getting another title in under his belt, let's see what happens in the Champions League as well, so he can get a project up and going from the start with a proper preseason at a new club without having to be a stopgap signing or a miraculous thing to turn things around. So I think that's the right move for him. Now, talking about Pepi, we mentioned some of the first teamers and guys that can be promising. I think now up next we have one of your personal favorites, Brayden. We have Cameron Carter-Vickers. He's been linked to Bayern Leverkusen out of all places. So wouldn't that be something? We always talk about center backs having to step it up, and we both criticize them, I think rightfully so, for extending his contract at Celtic. Do you think he could be up to a crazy move right here, Bayer Leverkusen? Do you think Leverkusen are getting scammed? Do you think it will happen? Do you think it would be successful if it happened? I'm just genuinely curious to see what you have to say about this one.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's going to happen. For one thing, it was just interest. Leverkusen are scoping around, doing their due diligence. I don't know why they would even consider him because he sucks, but they were just looking. I don't think they'll actually buy it. And not to mention, I don't think Celtic would sell, especially now when they're about to win another league title, try to do the domestic treble or quadruple or however many horrible trophies are over in that league. I don't really know, to be honest. It's 2 or 3. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. They don't mean anything. I think CCV will stay. Really, if this move or a different one materializes either here or this summer, it's really about changing the narrative about him, because he's been criticized mainly by us. Some other people are starting to catch on about his lack of ambition, because Celtic are a huge club traditionally. Historically, they have a huge fan base, and all of that is great, but let's be honest, the Scottish League is worse than MLS, and we criticized Miles Robinson a lot when he decided to make the decision to reject European offers and stay in MLS, move to FC Cincinnati, try to chase trophies within our domestic league. And when CCV signs a long-term extension to Celtic until 2029, I believe it actually happened in the same summer as Miles's situation, we didn't really give him the same criticism, which I thought was weird, because it's basically the same situation. He just gets the added bonus of having Champions League games. And now it's more than previously because of the new format, and that's great. But at the end of the day, those are the only competitive games that actually mean anything. And at the end, I don't think Celtic are going to accomplish anything in the Champions League. If by some miracle, a club like Leverkusen or any club in the top 5 leagues, it's been reported that he's holding out hope for a Premier League return in the future. If anything like that materializes in the summer or this window, I think he has to take it if he wants to further his career. Do I think that he actually would do that? No. I think maybe he would go back to the Prem because he is English. I think a lot of people forget that he is really English. He's not as much American as some of our other players. Obviously, he has that connection, but he's lived his whole life there, and his whole career has been in England, going on loan to a bunch of random clubs in the Championship. I think he would make the move there. British players traditionally are a little bit scared to go outside of their comfort zone in terms of the leagues. That's why we don't see so many English players, there in Bundesliga, La Liga, all these places. So I think CCV will stay where he is, and honestly, I don't know why this rumor even happens.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say one thing. If it was just a lack of ambition, I think we would be in a better spot. It's just the lack of quality, really, as well. So, this is the last of the ones we'll do singularly, because, it is a more high-profile player, whether we like it or not. But I will, again, commend him for wanting to move, and I don't think he would do too well. But if he's holding out for a Premier League rumor, I'm actually very, very curious on why it hasn't happened, because Scotland is just up there. The people say that he's the best Celtic defender since Virgil van Dijk. We saw how successful that one was, but I'm curious if it will happen or not. I think it should happen, even if it's January. I'll just say it. What does it really mean staying around in Scotland to win 10,000 trophies that nobody really watches when you're playing against potato farmers? It doesn't really matter. Just move as soon as you can. And now we're going to group up right here 3 guys that have fell backwards. Let's be honest. All of these guys at one point used to be very promising. First of all, Bryan Reynolds. He's been rumored to, both of the clubs. You just let let me know one of them. It's Plymouth Argyle, the one that fired Wayne Rooney, I believe, very recently. And then Sparta Praha as well. baffled that somebody wants Reynolds. Don't want to be too harsh on the guy, but I watched him quite frequently, and he always manages to be one of the worst players on the pitch. And when we have Rokas, Pukštas, and Taylor Booth, two guys that have stagnated heavily, two guys that were supposed to be very important for the Olympics and turned out not to be. I'm curious to see, do you think these moves should happen, Braden, so they can get back on their spotlight? And do you think these players have any hope of being back into prominence, maybe for a spot in the USMNT?
Yeah, we'll be quick on all of these because they're not as much as prominent as the other ones. Bryan Reynolds, I think stay or go. I don't think it really matters. I think Sparta Prague is definitely a step up in terms of club. In terms of league, it's a little bit of a step down, but you have the European factor as well. I wouldn't be mad if he chose that. Plymouth Argyle, I'll just say quickly, they proposed a 6-month loan. It makes no sense. I mean, they're a horrible situation right now. Hopefully, sacking Rooney will help them out, but they're bottom of the championship, likely to be relegated. Plus, Westerlo have no cover for backup right back, and they wouldn't even get a fee for a loan to sign a replacement. Obviously, they're a pretty small club traditionally. They don't have the funds. It just makes sense it makes no sense from any perspective. Sparta Prague would be cool. Plymouth, I don't think it would happen. For Taylor Booth, I think he absolutely has to move. It's funny, these lower prominence players are the ones that I think actually do need the transfer, as opposed to the first teamers that we have. I think whether it's Eredivisie or MLS, I think he just needs to move. I will say the fact that the MLS window opens on January 31st is really bad for Booth, because if he is going to hold out for that sort of move, it doesn't give Utrecht a lot of time to make that happen, considering that their window closes February 4th. I think it'd be safer to just go to another club in the Netherlands as soon as possible, really, so he can get back when their winter break is over and start a fresh life at a different club there. And then for Rokas Pukštas, he really should have left in the summer. He's had disagreements with the manager. He just needs to get anywhere. Honestly, anywhere where he can go and start fresh, kind of like Taylor Booth. Hopefully it's somewhere in Italy. That's where the rumors have been in the past, but really any club that actually values him and will play him and sees him as part of their future, I think is good for him.
Absolutely, and I will say for all three of these guys, whether they like it or not, whether it was self-inflicted or not, because there are a lot of injuries that happened to Booth, they all did this to themselves. So then you see how quickly you can go from being linked to Man United to perhaps having MLS as your best course of action. So let's wish them all the best of luck. All the best of luck to the guys that are possibly moving, and we already mentioned. Let us know in the comments below what you think. Do you think there are any names that you're surprised haven't been linked to a move yet in this January? Do you think any of these rumors will happen? So make sure to leave a like, subscribe, share with your friends, and we'll see you next time.